Hey guys, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here, and before we start the draft, I just really want to clear up this Mist Intruder debate that we all are having. First and foremost, I really appreciate everybody's feedback so far. Everybody's been pretty good about being respectful, even if they have a completely, even if they completely disagree with me. So, yeah, let's discuss Mist Intruder. I'm going to amend a statement I made yesterday. A statement I made yesterday was that Marshall and LSV on Limited Resources said that Mist Intruder is bad outside of blue-black. That is incorrect. Mist Intruder is what they said was Mist Intruder is bad outside of the ingest processing deck. And that is a difference. That's definitely a difference. The reason that I said it's bad outside of blue-black is because of a statement Marshall and LSV made later in the podcast where they said Mist Intruder should not be picked as highly for the blue-red processing deck. And they didn't even really go over the green-black or green-blue processing deck, probably because that's just not a very good archetype. But let's amend my statement now. Mist Intruder is good in processing ingest decks. I absolutely agree with that statement. This card is good if you have a good amount of processing cards. Now, the best color combination for this archetype is definitely blue-black. And I think you're going to have a real hard time convincing anybody that the blue-red or the green-black or the green-blue processing deck is better than the blue-black one. The blue-black processing, ingest, whatever you want to call it, archetype, that's the best color combination for that archetype. So let me continue now. In general, I don't think that the processing ingest strategy is the optimal strategy to go for. I think they're less easy to make. They require you to play mediocre cards in a vacuum that are only good when they're put together. So like Mist Intruder is a mediocre card. In any other format, it would be probably an unplayable card. In this format, it's very important for these cards specifically. I didn't put the rares in here. These are like the common and uncommon ones, because I think these are the ones you're really going to be drafting the most of. You're not going to get to the rares as much as you want. So these are the cards that require processing. So I think that because if you look, a lot of these cards are very mediocre on their own. Rune Processor is a good, very efficient, not efficient, but for the price, a 7/8 for 7 is a good price. So if you don't process, this card's fine. These guys are actual just hill giants without processing. Cryptic Cruiser obviously has high upside if you can process, but you have to process quite a few times if you really want to hope that just tapping down is going to be good enough. Like using this one time is really not that impressive. Nullifier requires 2 cards. So this one is, although very powerful, the fact that you have to process 2 cards to counter the spell does make this one, you have to be very dedicated processing to make this one work. But the nice thing about Nullifier is a 4-mana 2/3 Flash Flyer is good on its own. Like if you don't process, this card is still playable. So you really have to identify the key differences here. Ruin Processor and Nullifier, they're fine if you can't process. Cryptic Cruiser, Mindraker, Merc Strider, even Oracle of Dust, Reclaimer, Void Attendant, and I'll get to Processor Assault in a second here, are very underwhelming cards on their own. If you can't process, these cards are very unexciting. They're playable, but you should not be happy about playing these cards. You really should not be happy playing a 4-mana 3/2 if it's not bouncing an opponent's creature. So what I'm trying to say about why I don't like the processing deck is the fact that you have to include a mediocre card like Mist Intruder to turn these mediocre cards into good cards that should tell you something about the archetype. Like, think about how the ally deck works. You have, like, Tajuru Beastmaster that just boosts your whole team. Let's say he's the only ally in your deck. That card is still good if you're in green. It's still boosting your team. This is not good on its own. It's a 4-mana 3/3. It's a hill giant. This is not good without processing. It's just a 2-mana 1/2 flyer. So, another example of an archetype, Landfall. Think of the 2-mana 2/1 Trampler. That card's great on its own. If you're in red, you should definitely be playing that card. It's most of the time it's a 3/2 trample for 2 on attacks. On defense, probably not the best, but on attacks, 2-mana 3/2 trample, that's great. Even the Snapping Gnarlid, 2-mana 2/2 landfall. Most of the time it's going to be attacking at 3/3. So most of the time it's a 2-mana 3/3 attacker, 2/2 blocker. That's pretty good. And that's certainly more exciting, and not the requirement is just not there to make them good. So I kind of hope I've cleared that up a little bit. I'll talk about Processor Assault now. I think this card is actually just awful. I think this is an awful card. It's a sorcery, which is really surprising since it actually doesn't even do anything without process. You can't even play it without processing. This is like the most crystal clear example of why I don't think processing is that great of an archetype. Does that mean I'm going to avoid it at all costs? No. I will, I'm sure, be playing processing from time to time in this format. If I have the choice between processing and probably almost any other archetype in the format, I'm probably just going to take the other archetype. I don't think that this is the most consistent, safe route to go. Finally, I think before we start the draft, I wanted to quickly go over Molten Nursery, because there were a few people that told me I was really missing out on this card. I still stand by, I don't think this card is very good. Even if you're in a deck, let's say your entire deck is devoid, this is a horrific top deck on like turn 6, 7, anything like that. This card is still dead in your deck that pretty much every spell in your deck turns it on. Are there matches where it's going to be good? Yes. There are X1s in this format that you want to kill. In those matches, Molten Nursery would be good. If your first play of the game is a turn 3 Molten Nursery, maybe you'll get in, let's say, 3 to 5 points of damage, not all on the same turn, probably over the course of 3 to 5 turns. I don't think that's all that good. So I don't think that Molten Nursery is a particularly good card. Will I avoid it at all costs? No. I probably will play it at some point and give it more of a chance. From what I've seen of it so far, I'm pretty unexcited by it. But I hope I've cleared that up on Mist Intruder. I hope my amended statement makes more sense. I apologize for the confusion. I'd love to debate more. If people want to debate me more on it, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. Okay, let's start the draft. All right, guys, we are in the draft. So let's figure this out. Okay, options. We've got pretty much, I think it's Clutch of Currents here. I like Sheer Drop. I like Clutch of Currents more. I just think I would rather have the tempo card more than the removal card. Mostly because, I don't know, I just think Clutch of Currents plays better than Sheer Drop. I don't know if that's necessarily right. So if I take a blue card, what are the options I can go into? I can do the blue-black process deck. I can do the blue-red sort of aggro deck, or the blue-red process deck, although, I just got done kind of talking about why I don't like that as much. There's also a McKindy Slide Runner, and a Tunneling Geopede. Both are good for red landfall. I think taking the clutch here is fine. So since I would prefer to not play the blue-black process deck, I would rather focus on trying to make blue-red work. I just think clutch is better. Oh, yeah, there's also the blue-white Flyers deck, which they talked about on Limited Resources. Ooh, well, we're going to follow up with Coastal Discovery because this card's nuts. But there's Cloud Manta in here, which I imagine is a kind of a key part of the blue-white Flyers. So I'm not even opposed to trying out the blue-white Flyers deck, especially since it's sort of a straightforward sort of build. So hoping to wheel Cloud Manta, more likely wheel maybe Anticipate out of here. Titan's Presence seems like a difficult card to play, especially since even though these make colorless creatures, you can't use them for Titan's Presence. But this is definitely a pretty clear Coastal Discovery, I would say. Okay, So options now, we've got Spawning Bed, Vestige. In blue, we only have Salvage Drone. I'm not excited enough about that to take it. So if I take the Vestige, it moves me more towards the blue-red Devoid deck, which I just got done playing, but I played well for me. I did think it was good. I'm not sure about a blue-red ally deck. There are blue allies, to be sure, but I don't know what I feel about them. I also could take the Ghostly Sentinel or the Gideon's Reproach. If I take the Gideon's Reproach, I'm moving towards a blue-white Flyers. I could give that a try, especially since I think Reproach is pretty decent removal. And I would think Ghostly Sentinel can wheel. Definitely can wheel. I don't know if this pack goes deep enough that that's going to work, but why don't we try for a blue-white Flyers deck. Both of these cards are absolutely fine in blue-white Flyers, by the way. Even though neither of them fly, I think they're fine in the deck. So let's take the Gideon's Reproach here and maybe start to work towards a blue-white Flyer. All right, there's a Grip of Desolation, which is very strong. There's a Core Castigator. See, the problem with taking Grip now is it's going to want to move me into blue-black, and blue-black, like I said, is really geared towards processing, which I don't necessarily want to do. But getting a fourth pick Grip is just so remarkable out of pack one. Getting past a fourth pick Grip is in my opinion so telling of not wanting to be in black, because it, regardless of whatever archetype you're trying to force, Grip of Desolation, if you're in black, is the card to pick. This card is remarkably strong. So I think we are going to take the Grip. That might mean I have to move towards more of a blue-black sort of processing deck, which is fine. It's obviously, like I said, not what I want to do necessarily, but something I'm willing to do. There's a Blighted Fen now, which is fine. There's Rush of Ice, which is fine, not terribly exciting. Altar's Reap. In white, we have Ondu Greathorn, which is not great. So despite the name, not great. So we have Blighted Fen and Rush of Ice, I think, that are the real options here. And I'm not exactly sure which one I like more. I feel like Rush of Ice is fine. If I don't want to do a blue-black processing deck, Rush of Ice, I need to give this card, I basically need to play with Rush of Ice more to see what I think about it. I definitely think taking a blue card is fine, since we're 100% in blue at this point. So now I get a shot at Blighted Fen. There's also Anticipate. There's a Felidar Cub, which would not, I mean, it'd be playable in blue-white, but not a flyer. There's a Territorial Baloth, but green is typically open, and green-blue, I imagine, is not the best archetype. There's a Sure Strike for sort of a blue-red Devoid deck. I still would like to make the Grip of Desolation work. I think taking a Blighted Fen here is fine. Just Mindbreaker is just not very good. I'm going to take the Blighted Fen. All right, options now. Well, now we're getting Castigator, which, regardless of whether you're in blue-white Flyers or not, is good. Not a good blue or black card here. So I think taking the Castigator is fine. Because I think if I can make blue-white Flyers work still, I would like it. And Clutch and Rush, I imagine, as well as the Coastal Discovery. Just any deck in blue, you're going to want to run Clutch and Coastal Discovery. But I think Clutch and Rush are probably very good in the blue-white Flyers deck, because they kind of tempo your opponent in a nice way. So let's take the Castigator just because it's an early attacker. All right, so there's Inspired Charge. There's a late Sure Strike. There's a Swarm Surge, and there's a Wavewing Elemental. Maybe just take the Elemental. It does fly. It's not a terribly exciting card. But like I said, we're for sure in blue. So I think that might work best. We could actually take the Inspired Charge. I actually like Inspired Charge. And a nice thing about the blue-white Flyers deck is you can pick up like Sky Spawners and such. And Sky Spawners, I imagine, are very good with the Inspired Charge, and Incubator Drones. You know what? There might actually be a higher chance we end up playing the Inspired Charge. I think Wavewing Elemental typically is expendable. Well, immediately get another Inspired Charge. A wheeled McKinney Slide Runner is pretty remarkable, Maybe that's the sign that we're supposed to be in blue-red. Problem with blue-red landfall is there's not a lot of blue landfall. We did just pass one, but there's not a ton. And then there's some green cards that aren't great either. We'll take the Slide Runner. I think it's the best for its archetype. So we have a black landfall creature that I don't love. We have Mindraker, which I don't love. A couple green cards that are good, but I don't think that green-blue is likely where I want to be. I'm going to take the Sandstone Bridge. I still think I'd like to make blue-white work, or at least leave that option there. But we are tabling some. We could take the Angelic Gift. It's good on a Castigator, cantrips. It's good on a. Maybe we give Angelic Gift a try. I imagine it's playable. I think Ondu Champion's better, but I do want to actually commit to an archetype here. So I'm going to take the Angelic Gift. We'll see how it plays. I haven't given it a chance yet. All right, it could be that we're just supposed to be in red. So I think the Recruit is probably better than the Champion. Having the 4 toughness is pretty key. This does come down earlier, but I think the Recruit having Menace is also good. They're both allies, by the way. All right, so I guess we could. All right, so we could do red. Could do red-white. It appears that it was just lucky we picked up the Grip of Desolation, or I guess unlucky that we picked it up since we didn't get to. We're likely not going to get to end up playing it. Clutch of Currents, Rush, and Coastal Discovery are all splashable cards, so I think that I can at least consider it. But maybe we are supposed to. Maybe red-white allies is what I mean. With the lateness of those red cards, it really does feel like we're supposed to be in red. So, geez, another Coastal Discovery card is so fantastic. There's a Touch of the Void. I wanted to be in blue, but like I said, it really feels like when we're getting allies that late, more likely we're supposed to be red. And I feel like, well, I mean, it could dip out of white, but our blue cards are better than our white currently, but our white is probably fine. So I could take the ally. I think I want the Touch of the Void, though. Just a good removal burn spell in red. There's a chance it wheels since red was open, but that was pack 1 that it was open that direction. There is blue cards now. I'm going to take the removal in red. It just felt like red is where we're supposed to be. So if I'm playing red, I likely want to play red-white allies or red-white aggro. Like cards like McKinley's Slide Runner are still perfectly acceptable in that deck just because Slide Runners are very aggressive. And it doesn't matter that they're not allies. Shatterskull Recruit and Ondu Champion play just fine, and so does Court Castigator without worrying about the whole ally aspect. There's Courier Griffin, which is good too. Slide Runner did table last time. I still think the card is very good, though. It's a very good beat stick. I probably want to keep this curve as low as possible. There is Ondu Rising, which is a good way to gain some life. I want to play, if I'm playing red-white, I want to play red-white aggro. If I want to play red-white aggro, I probably want the Slide Runner and hope to wheel Ondu Rising Patrol or Courier Griffin, I think. All right, Valakut Predator is a very aggressive card. There is a Sheer Drop. I'm still considering these blue cards just because if I were to get like an Evolving Wilds, I could see myself splashing them. Removal-wise, what are we rocking right now? Just a Touch of the Void and a Gideon's Reproach. See, I don't like Sheer Drop in an aggressive deck. I don't think that makes a ton of sense. I think I'd rather have the Predator just because it's a nice, aggressive landfall card. And this is just one of those situations that I was talking about. You don't have to play dedicated allies if you're in red-white. For example, like Slide Runner and Valakut Predator are perfect examples of cards that are very aggressive. They're good in an aggressive build. You don't have to be dedicated landfall for these cards to be good. You just have to play them and play lands. So all decks are going to be doing that, which makes these cards very nice and aggressive, in my opinion. So I think we're going to take this, maybe hope to wheel the Invoker. Okay, Retreat is very good. Like this is an example where I love Nettle Drone, but Retreat is, I think, what we want. The pump effect on that is great, and it does spit out allies, which currently we don't have allies that work great with it, but spitting out dudes for Inspired Charge is also going to be really good, and I think Retreat to Emeria is a fantastic card in general. There is a Ghostly Sentinel in here, which is fine, but I think we just want the Retreat and more landfall rewards. So it looks like we're playing just red-white aggro, not even dedicated allies necessarily. Planar Outburst Pass has got to be the pick here, just a super strong card. There's another Slide Runner, Chasm Guide, which would be actually fine, not amazing. Stone Fury, which would be fine. Hope to wheel any of those. Clearly taking the Planar Outburst. At this point, I think I'm prepared to just cut the blue plan, which is fine too. We'll take Planar Outburst pretty happily. This card is very strong. So I think we're just slamming second Predator. Granted, Patrol is an ally, but I think I'm much more on board with red-white powerful landfall cards. If we find allies worth, like I said, Ondu Champion, Shatterskull Recruit are perfectly acceptable cards beyond the fact that they're allies. Same with Castigator, just a very aggressive card. It really doesn't matter that they're allies. I mean, it's nice that they're allies. If we get some card that works well with them, rewards us for making, playing them as allies, I'm on board. But I'm totally on board with just playing them as powerful spells in their own right. Wow. I'm really amazed with all these powerful cards we're getting. So here's a combat trick. I still think I'd rather go deep on the landfall creatures, and I think I would prefer a 2-drop over the 3-drop, although the Predator is very nice. I think the Slide Runner, if we're playing aggressive, let's just slam as many of these as possible. Just really go deep on these dudes. Okay. Gideon's Reproach, really nice pickup for us here, seeing as it's a removal spell. I guess technically Ally Encampment works with some of our allies, but we're going to just take the Reproach here. Expedition Envoys getting slam dunked in this deck. There's Shadow Glider, which evades, but I'm more on board with just really getting a curve going here. Just curving out some powerhouse dudes. An Expedition Envoy being 1 mana is not irrelevant. Okay, so we wield the Courier Griffin. I'm going to take that. I think it's a good evasive beater. There's a Boiling Earth, which is good against us. Something I should be worried about. It does wreck our day, but I think Courier Griffin is just something we're actually going to play in this deck, so I'm going to take it. Okay, we did wield the Ondu Rising. I think Ondu Rising is a pretty powerful card in this deck. Being able to do a big lifelink life swing, kind of surprisingly, is good. There is Valakut Invoker, though, which rewards us for playing 18 lands, which is also good. I think I'm going to go the Rising, though, because it's uncommon. Hope to find another one of those. All right, we'll take Nettle Drone. The beauty of Nettle Drone is it's completely playable in this deck as just a fairly efficient beater. Reckless Cohort we'll take in case we need it. I think for now we'll set it in sideboard. Pretty unlikely we're going to want it or need it. All right, I think we're in the right direction now. Despite having really powerful blue cards picked up early, it feels like I'm supposed to be in sort of a red-white aggro deck, which I'm happy to do. Okay, Void Winnower. I literally can't even. What do we got here? There's some very good options for our deck. We can do another Slide Runner. I think it's more likely to wheel still. I could take a Cliffside Lookout, which is pretty attractive in this deck, seeing as we've got quite a few guys I want to pump, and we have Retreat to Emeria, which is going to spit out some more. Or I could take a third Gideon's Reproach. I'm more on board with just getting some nice cheap creatures. I don't know what I like more, the Slide Runner or the Lookout. I kind of want to just go real deep on... I want to go real deep on cheap landfall aggression here. I feel like Royal's Retribution is good too, not to be overlooked. I think Royal's Retribution is good. I don't know what to say. If we wield a Slide Runner, would I prefer something else? Like, I think there's a decent argument for Royal's Retribution here. Does mess up blocks. All right, we'll take the Retribution. I hope to wield a Slide Runner. All right, Castigator, I'm kind of on board with just taking that here over the Slide Runner again. I could just take another Slide Runner, but this way red was open. I think they're likely to wheel. So taking Castigator is just another 3-power attacker. Might. Well, I mean, there's an argument there, actually. I mean, I think the argument is, yeah, like I said, I think Slide Runner is more likely to wheel, which is why I should take the Castigator. Okay. I'm on board with that. Angelic Captain, just a fantastic pickup for us. Immediately rewarded for all of the allies that we have. God, Fire Mantle Mage is insane in this deck too. That's a dilemma. That's a real dilemma. I think they're both great. Fire Mantle Mage, we currently have 1, 2, 3. This spits out allies 4, 5, 6. 6 ally cards. It's pretty good. I think because Angelic Captain's just a better beater on its own, I'm going to take it. And, I mean, we have plenty of allies. They're both good with allies. I think just because this can finish off an opponent easier on its own. I'm going to move on to Rising up to 6, actually. I think Angelic Gift could likely get cut in here, although we actually have some decent targets for it. I might want to still consider it. We're just going to slam the Captain here. I think it's more likely to wheel, but it's still not super likely to wheel. It's more likely to wheel, but not super likely to wheel. All right, we could take the Great Horn. It is a landfall card. Out of all these cards, the first to get cut is probably Angelic Gift, I guess. I still like Inspired Charge quite a bit in here. We do need some more creatures. I think we're going to be able to manage that, though. So Chasm Guide has haste, which makes it okay. But other than that, not terribly exciting. Might just want the Stone Fury, but I actually need some more creatures. I'm trying to think how I feel about Great Horn. Marshall and LSV said they did not like the card. I actually think the card is fine. It's actually a decent aggressive beater. This rewards you more for allies, but we don't have a ton of allies. I'll take it anyway, speculatively. All right, Blighted Gorge versus Courier Griffin number 2 versus McKindy Patrol. I kind of want the Blighted Gorge. We're not super color intensive. And what I like about the Gorge is it's more rewards for playing 18 lands, especially in a deck that doesn't have a very high curve. Hope to Wheel, Shadow Glider, Courier Griffin. Okay. Slab Hammer is okay, not terribly exciting. Goblin Warpaint is a nice aggressive card. Works actually pretty well with the Slide Runners. I think it's the most likely to be played. Slab Hammer does work well with Sandstone Bridge. It's nice synergy. I might consider Warpaint in this deck. I don't think it's happening, but it's a consideration. Okay, we got a Great Horn. There's also a Stone Fury. So we have 14 creatures, 15 if you count the Ondu Rising. 16, I guess, if you count Retreat to Emeria, which you probably can. McKindy Patrol is an ally, which works well with the Angelic Captain, but I guess it fits the curve relatively well. I might just want the Stone Fury. Removal currently is double Gideon's Reproach, Touch of the Void. So, I guess Royal's Retribution and Planar Outburst. I probably still take Stone Fury, I think. Okay, Valakut Predator is just fantastic. There's a Lithomancer's Focus, but I think we can cut Nettle Drone, really focus on this red sword, and we just tabled McKinney's Slide Runner, which is great news. There's a Cliffside Lookout, too, which is good. I really want to go deep on these cheaper creatures, though. Like, I don't even need to play Chasm Guide. I probably don't even need Ondu Champ. I'm trying to think if I want to do Lookout. Lookout is high reward for land, but Slide Runner beats down more efficiently. I'm going to take the efficient beatdown guy. Okay, landfall dude. Dude we probably wouldn't play. Probably hate the medic. Blocks us decently well. Comes down earlier than the assassin. It enables some archetypes. Alright, I'm going to hate the Skyrider elf here. Guess Blister Pod is actually kind of annoying against us. I'm going to hate that. Not going to play the Whiptail. I think we'll just hate this again. Hate another Blister Pod. Sure. Okay. So we have a super aggressive deck. We are going to play 18 lands just because we ended up with 7 landfall cards. Is that right? No, 8 landfall cards. So I just basically need to make one cut, and we've got ourselves a pretty nasty looking aggressive deck here. Basically just playing red-white landfall, which is just fine in my book. And we ended up with enough removal to make this kind of an attractive build, in my opinion. We only, is that right? We're only running 14 creatures? I guess that's not exactly accurate. We're not running 14 creatures because Ondu Rising, like I said, does count. It's kind of like a 6-mana hasty creature. Let's separate out creatures from non-creatures. So I think Retreat to Emeria can still definitely be counted as a creature. And I think Ondu Rising should too. So really it's like we have 16 creatures. 17, I guess, if you count Planar Outburst, although I can see the argument for not wanting to count that one necessarily. So of all the cards I would want to cut, what should I cut? That is a legitimately good question. I think the answer is... Not exactly sure what the answer is. I really like Retreat to Emeria in here just for sheer versatility. And if I'm playing Retreat, I kind of want the Inspired Charge too. So I'm either spitting out tokens to boost with Inspired Charge. Inspired Charge also seems like a nasty card to have with quad McKindy Slide Runner. I really like that a lot too. Like having 3 of these guys or 2 of these guys out, making landfall, playing Inspired Charge, 6-mana trample, just seems so big. Or is it? No, it's 5 damage trample, which is still really good. So Stone Fury versus Royal's Retribution. So the issue here is Stone Fury I can use a little more aggressively, but Royal's Retribution has more versatility. And I don't really want to cut a creature. I think I want to run all my creatures, especially since this granting trample to my predators. And we definitely want to play 18 lands too. We've got Mana Sinks in Planar Outburst Awakening and all these landfall guys and this landfall spell. I feel like Royal's Retribution in a vacuum is better than Stone Fury. Stone Fury might just be better for our deck for getting rid of a blocker, but even that's not necessarily true. With all the trample guys we have, using Royal Retribution act like aggressively, and the same goes for Gideon's Reproach, lets our trample creatures push through anyway. I think I'm just going to take the, I'm going to do the, or cut the Stone Fury. I can swap that in for Royal's Retribution in a pinch. I think I want the Inspired Charge. It's just aggressive enough in this build where I think it's going to do good things for us. So I like this deck a lot. I think it turned out good. It's not even necessarily one of the archetypes. It's a mixture of really cheap, efficient landfall creatures and white sort of, well, some white and red ally like sub-theme going on, but all the cards operate well on their own, and it just looks really aggressive. So I like this deck. Looks like we're pretty even on red and white. We're definitely playing the Blighted Gorge, by the way. So we have 3 double white. This one kind of a triple white. So I think we probably err towards white, but it's going to be like close to a split as possible. So this would be 9-8. Yeah, I think 9-8 is going to be just fine. I think 9-8 is appropriate. We have plenty to do in both colors relatively early. Okay, this is the deck. I like it. Definitely not strictly archetypal, but it's got a great plan, and I think it should be able to execute it reasonably well. So let's try this out. We'll see you around round one.